The do-or-die finals games we have gotten this 2023 final series have been insane, and it was no different last night at Amy Park. The Melbourne Storm 18-13 winners over the Sydney Roosters. Who remembers the last time that was a final scoreline in a finals game? Probably when Parramatta won the comp and dinosaurs were roaming the earth. And I have to quickly shout out both these clubs because holy heckers have they got some guts. You know, the Melbourne Storm, there are unfortunately, and look, this isn't me being too critical of them, but on paper, there are some rosters out there, the Sharks, the Roosters, the Rabbitohs, that are much better squads on paper. And the Melbourne Storm are somehow the team, outside the top two in Penrith and Brisbane, the best team in the competition. That is remarkable how they've done it. Like, it's a weak forward pack. I know they got Christian Welch. I know they got Nelson Asafa-Solomona. But when you compare the whole side to others in the competition, it's not the same. Like, it's not at the level that some of the other clubs are at. And the Sydney Roosters, I mean, they could have easily rolled over. They could have rolled over against the Rabbitohs. They got through that. Their last week was unwinnable, and they somehow pulled it out because they're a champion footy side. And maybe the injuries just finally caught up to them. They left their run way too late. And you can still be critical of the Sydney Roosters 2023 season because they should be in the premiership winning business. But you can't fault the effort that both of these clubs showed. Another awesome finals game in the books in the NRL era. The two best teams of the NRL era, while Penrith Panthers may go on to kick on, and I guess in the 3-year span they're the best team we've ever seen in the NRL era, these two have been just an absolute dominant powerhouse. And it's good for the neutral rugby league fan that this was a semi-final. We didn't have to watch these two battle out in another grand final or even another prelim. But it felt different, it felt deserved, and it feels like whoever wins this, and now that it's the Melbourne Storm, they're going to be huge underdogs next week. But both teams were so gritty. Talk about a grind fest. Not many points scored, and the ones that were just little moments of individual brilliance and little moments of lapses, which we'll get to in a minute. The Sydney Roosters, they were so brave. No Manu, no Tupou, no Hargraves, no Suoliti, there's probably a bunch of others that I'm missing. Connor Watson, they didn't have him once all year. And how are you going to survive without the hottest man in rugby league? They tried their backsides off. They got some unbelievably shit calls. I don't know what Ashley Klein was looking at, but I don't know how that Harry Grant knock-on wasn't a knock-on. There were some other calls in there as well. There was the one at the end of the game where Harry Grant's head literally got taken off, and I actually agree with them not blowing the penalty just because I'm like, Harry Grant, you're a bit of a dog for staying down. But I totally get why he does it, because that should be a penalty, because it's just they've created a situation for themselves where, guess what? We're looking a bit like the A-League at the moment. I actually thought the Sydney Roosters were probably the better team when it came to the grind. The Melbourne Storm just were probably, well, let's just get into it. They had the dude. They had the guy. They had the best big game player in the comp. When there's a moment to be won, when the game is on the line, Cameron Munster always finds a way to step up, and he was absolutely magnificent. Now, look, you could argue who's still quiet for 75 minutes, but that was why he's on $1 million, because that last 5 minutes, he got set up for field goals, didn't take him. Instead, when Harry Grant went left and screwed up another field goal set, he put the bomb on the dot for Willie Warbrick, who, again, has improved tremendously as a winger. He's come from nowhere and provided such a good strike option for the Melbourne Storm. I was a bit surprised they got him, but it's him in Coates next year, 1,000%. Harry Grant, I think starting him off the bench was a great decision. It was good just to see Garlic. You know, Harry Grant, maybe Craig Bellamy likes having your number 9 be the main organiser of a team, but I thought last week that Harry Grant, Jerome Hughes, they needed the ball in their hands, and Harry wasn't giving it to them. I'm pretty sure I just said Harry Grant wasn't giving the ball to Harry Grant. I meant Cameron Munster. Nelson starting, the big boy played a lot of minutes, and he only ran for about 80 or so running metres, but his defence is so underrated, and they've got to have him out there. 43 minutes, it was a big ask. I think he played 30 in the second half, and it was so important for them winning that game. He's without a doubt their best forward, and yeah, he had to dig deep, and he definitely did. Christian Welch, on the other hand, I thought him coming off the bench was a bit of a smarter play. He ran over 100 metres, and the Melbourne Storm, they found a way. Wishart, he did all right. Their long kicking game was definitely what was keeping the Sydney Roosters in it. I thought in the second half especially, they were missing Jerome Hughes a lot. as for the Roosters, Sam Walker, I know they didn't get the win, but this kid's future is so bright, man. It is going to be insane. We had Nathan Cleary. He's the best halfback at his age. Sam Walker was better than at 20 years old or whatever he is than Nathan Cleary was. So, yeah, you're in good hands, the Roosters. And I tell you what, Queensland, you're in good hands too. But we don't have to worry about that. Brandon Smith, I thought he had a really disappointing start, but he bounced back pretty well. You know, he had the line break, I think, straight away, which allowed Meaney to get them on the front foot. And then that same set was the one where Wishart scored, and it was him failing to move across and stop Wishart from scoring. But he scored that try right back. So he had a bit of an up and down game. Victor Radley busted his ass off. Holy heckers. I've been pretty critical of Victor the past few weeks and probably the past few years just with his suspensions and him not being able to keep a lid on his emotions. But 80 minutes, 199 metres, a line break and a line break assist. He missed 6 tackles, but he made 40 of them. Insane work rate. It's unfortunate that he's sort of dropped off the top echelon of locks. Like off the top of my head, I'd probably have Carrigan, Yo, Murray, Jake Trbojevic, Ruben Cotter above him. But I tell you what, if he can come back next year and have a good year and put in efforts like that, I mean, it's not really an effort thing because I'm sure he tries his ass off. And he does look like he tries his ass off. Look at last night. But he just needs to reel in those big moments, those grubby moments, for lack of a better word, because my brain is absolutely fried because I am recovering from one of the big nights. But speaking of players I've been critical of, look, I praise Sam Walker because he stepped up in the big moments. But the last 2 weeks, it's been, I don't know how to word it, but Luke Keary, for me, has just gone a bit missing. Like in the big game last night, Cameron Munster stood up. Luke Keary's actually a 3-time winning premiership player. He's played in Origins. Like, we've seen him stand up. Look at the grand final against Melbourne in 2018. I know that was 5 years ago. Holy heck, as I'm going to die soon. And I actually like the approach in that it's Sam Walker's team. Give it the ball to him. But Luke Keary, you know, when it wasn't working for Sam Walker, they only scored 2 tries. Like, they didn't do well with the ball. I think Luke Keary and Sam Walker are their main attacking weapons. And if Sam Walker, you know, he was stepping up. And while it wasn't working for him, Luke Keary is still the senior half on that footy field. And I would have liked to see him take control. But it wasn't to be, unfortunately, for Luke Keary tonight. Like, their only tries were Lindsay Collins because of a Sam Walker break and Brandon Smith just barging over. Luke Keary really, even last week, was a bit quiet. So if I'm being really critical of one half on the field, it had to be Luke Keary. I thought Seal Wong, absolutely tremendous. Probably in just a handful of games, he's put his hand up for Rookie of the Year. I think Taruva deserves it 1,000%. But if we're talking best rookie back rowers, maybe him and Preston. You know, he's been that good in just a short amount of time. Phenomenal last week, pretty good again, but just that error at the end of the game, that was pretty unforced. Bolo didn't look like he was ready for it, and unfortunately, I think Jackson Bolo, mate, if you want to come to the Bird gang, you're going to have to clean up those errors. Because I know one of them was that ball pass, but 3 errors. You know, he did try his backside off. He had 121 running meters, and the Melbourne Storm defense was absolutely destroying him every time. So it's not for a lack of trying, but I thought that he had a few too many errors in this game. But it's hard to be critical of the Sydney Roosters. Like, on one hand, it's such a weird season because on paper, at the start of the year especially, they were so bad. Let's not forget, let's not paint over like how good their last month or so has been, because it should give Roosters a bunch of confidence going into next year. But this was the same feeling we had 12 months ago. So the roster next year, definitely a premiership winning favourite, but they got to get off to a better start because they're leaving it too late. And then, as we've seen, all it takes is just a run of bad luck, and unfortunately, you're just lucking the cattle. But the Melbourne Storm, they're off to the preliminary final to play the Penrith Panthers again. God, Penrith, between South Sydney and the Melbourne Storm, are racking up some finals bloody victims. I know the Melbourne Storm are going to be huge outsiders in that one, but Melbourne is still a chance. Anything can happen in rugby league, and all you know, they're just a HIA to Cleary, touch wood. They're just a knee injury to, you know, Cleary or Luai. Luai does his shoulder again, touching wood. I'm one of the best players out there, but we'll talk about that later in the week. I just hit my mic. I apologise, but I'm not going to cut it out because I'm a lazy turd. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know in that comment section, what did you think of the Melbourne Storm's win over the Sydney Roosters, rate the Sydney Roosters season, and just talk utter rugby league dribble in that comment section. Beef up the comments because it looks good on the algorithm. Smash that like buttons, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see yous in the next one.
Friday night football.